Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report, today for November the 6th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. Now, we might be on the cusp of a new generation, but that does not mean that Nintendo, who does not have any hardware currently announced to bring to the table, is not absolutely killing it, because they are reporting that they have extraordinary sales and their profit is up 200%. Nintendo has recorded huge profits for 2020 and raised its financial forecast for the year as it sold millions more Switch consoles and tens of millions more copies of both new and evergreen games. Super Mario 3D All-Stars has shifted 5.21 million copies in just 12 days. Nintendo's sales data only runs up to the 30th of September, a total number perhaps boosted by Nintendo's bizarre decision to remove it from sale at the end of March. Animal Crossing New Horizons is now on an incredible 26 million sales since launch in March, double the sales of its predecessor, New Leaf. Its enormous sales place it just behind the Switch's top-selling game and longtime evergreen seller, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is now on 29 million. Pokemon Sword and Shield have grown to 19.2 million combined units sold, which makes it the best-selling pair of Pokemon games since the legendary Gold and Silver back in 1999. Home exercise game Ring Fit Adventure has sold another 3.1 million copies over the past 6 months, accelerating from its launch sales to 5.8 million copies sold overall since its arrival last year. 15 of Nintendo's own games sold at least 1 million additional copies since the beginning of the financial year in April, including Switch stalwarts such as Breath of the Wild and Smash Bros. Ultimate, which added another 2.3 million copies apiece. Switch sales for the past 6 months were up 80% on the same period last year, while game sales were up 71%, 12.5 million Switch consoles were sold, alongside a cool 100 million Switch games. Nintendo Switch is now on 68.3 million consoles sold total, which means it has overtaken the NES to become the second biggest seller in terms of Nintendo's own home consoles. Calling Switch a home console is Nintendo's own definition, behind only the Wii. All of this translates into some rosy-looking financial features for Nintendo, with half-year sales up 73% to $7.4 billion and an incredible 209% year-on-year rise in operating profit to $2.8 billion. Nintendo does not go into detail on why it's had such a stellar year, though the launch of breakout success Animal Crossing New Horizons is likely indicative of the general picture. In 2020, people are flocking to Nintendo, and on Switch, the company's own brands in particular, as we all spend more time at home and in need of more entertainment. So right off the bat, congratulations to Nintendo for turning it around, because you have to understand the Nintendo Switch lifecycle is coming off of the Wii U, and the Wii U was just not what people wanted or needed at that current stage of the game. Now, that's not to say that the Wii U is a bad console. There are plenty of people out there that really love it for what it is, but no one expected this level of success from the Nintendo Switch, and as the years go on, it just continues to improve more and more. Now, in this year's specific scenario, there are a couple of reasons why Nintendo would be doing so well, and first and foremost, we are in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of people have extra money because they are not going out and spending it on food, and spending it on recreation, and spending it going to the movies or the mall. They have additional funds to pump into their gaming, and so if that's their entertainment for the year, then so be it. Now, on top of that, there is no new hardware that was supposed to launch between 2019 and at least fall of 2020. Of course, next week we have the launch of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, but before that, there really is no reason to invest in a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, so if you got your tax return earlier this year, maybe that was the perfect opportunity to pick up a Nintendo Switch, since that will be a great way to fill the gap between, of course, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One generation and the next generation games. However, even greater than that, the Nintendo Switch brings something unique to the table. Even if you have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or S, there is still value in your Nintendo Switch if you love those Nintendo franchises, if you play on the go a lot. Nintendo brings a lot of good to the table that right now Sony and Microsoft can't compete with, not in terms of graphical fidelity or in terms of raw horsepower of a console, but in terms of just the kind of experience that you get. Animal Crossing is incredibly unique, and I have friends that love it and adore it and play it daily, and it continues to bring more and more people in, and the same could be said for Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart. They're doing a lot of unique things, and it's very cool to see it paying off. So again, congratulations to Nintendo for having profits that are up 200% over the course of the past 12 months. Now moving on to some next-gen news, Sony has confirmed the PS5 won't support SSD storage expansion at launch. It is reserved for a future update. Sony says its PlayStation 5 can load virtual worlds far faster than ever before, thanks to one of the fastest solid-state drives ever made, but it's also not a particularly big drive. Sony has confirmed to The Verge that it will not be able to expand that blazing fast SSD storage on day one. While the PS5 features a dedicated internal slot that can theoretically fit standard stick-shaped M.2 SSDs and an easy way to access it, the slot will apparently be disabled out of the box. This is reserved for a future update, Sony tells The Verge. If you've been paying close attention to PS5 news, this won't be a big surprise. PlayStation hardware architect Mark Cerny spent several minutes talking up the SSD storage expansion feature as part of his technical preview back in March, but he also said at the time that support was likely to be a bit past launch. It'd be great if that happened by launch, but it's likely to be a bit past it, so please hold off on getting that M.2 drive until you hear from us, Cerny said. So what's the holdup? As Cerny explained, not all M.2 SSDs are fast enough to keep up with the PlayStation 5, thin enough to fit into the SSD bay, or compatible with Sony's I/O controller, and Sony promised to do compatibility testing late this year to make sure. At the very least, Cerny suggested off-the-shelf SSDs would need to deliver more than 5.5 gigabits per second of bandwidth over a PCIe Gen 4 connection and not have a giant heatsink so large that they won't fit into the PlayStation 5's drive bay. I spoke to practically every manufacturer of a PCIe Gen 4 stick drive, there's only a handful, and not a single one was able to tell me their drives will actually work with the PlayStation 5. Two suggested that Sony's compatibility testing program has not actually kicked off yet. Several were optimistic though, suggesting their drives should meet Sony's requirements, and we're hoping to test for ourselves soon as we get the chance. In the meantime, you might find yourself having to manage your PlayStation 5's internal storage carefully. The PS5's 825GB SSD drive may come with as little as 667GB of usable storage. I've heard 664, I believe, according to leaks. Compare that to the size requirements for some PlayStation 5 games, and you have a bit of a pickle. Sackboy: A Big Adventure comes in at 32 gigs, Miles Morales comes in at 50, Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Launch Edition with the original Spider-Man bundled in is 105 gigs, Demon's Souls is 66, and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is 133. If you're planning to buy all of these games, that's half of your storage already accounted for, and it's worth noting that the Call of Duty games are notoriously storage intensive though, and they're not the only games available at launch. Of course, you have other titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dirt 5, a lot of big ones. So right from the get-go, I don't think this is going to be that big of a deal because of the time frame, and this applies to the Xbox Series X, the S, and the PlayStation 5. Within the first few months of launch, you probably aren't going to be filling up the entire SSD unless you are a hardcore player. You're buying every game. You're installing every piece of DLC. You want all of it on your system. And that's perfectly fine, but you will face constraints. For those that might be buying a console and they get between 3 and 4 games max, you probably aren't going to be experiencing that big of a problem. The only next-gen console that I think is going to be seeing actual difficulty in terms of space is going to be the Xbox Series S, because that only has 364 gigabytes of usable space, and that is just not a lot, especially when you look to the future of a Call of Duty title, which by the time the DLC is finished, that's probably going to take up 2/3 of that SSD. But for the PlayStation 5, let's say you get Miles Morales, Call of Duty, and Demon's Souls, excuse me. You do have plenty of space to accommodate that, and then by the time that you recoup some funds and you actually run out of space, it's probably going to be, let's say, May, June, July of next year, and that's assuming you buy a lot more games between now and then. And so this is going to be something that is not going to cripple the experience. It's not a console generation changer or anything like that, but it is something that's nice to know going into the next gen. Now, this is not a problem that's exclusive to the PlayStation 5 as well. The Xbox Series X only has 802 gigabytes of space and 364 gigs on the Xbox Series S, so it's a very strange time right now because these consoles needed to be cheap and affordable, but they also need more space, which it would have pumped the price up. Not a good situation to be in. But if you want to install Control, it looks like you won't be able to do that until 2021, at least unless you want the next-gen version. In a statement published on Friday, developer Remedy confirmed, "We want the final quality of the game to be awesome, and so we need a bit more time to work on it. Thank you for your understanding and patience." Currently available for Xbox One, PS4, and PC, Control Ultimate Edition includes the base game plus all post-released content. Digital PS5 and Xbox Series X and S versions were due to follow at the end of this year before physical next-gen versions arrived in early 2021. Publisher 505 Games has said it will only offer free upgrades to the next-gen version of Control to players who own the Ultimate Edition, meaning those who purchased the game previously will not be eligible. The news expectedly caused a negative reaction for many owners for the original version of the game and led to 505 releasing a statement to apologize and attempt to explain its decision. According to the publisher, it spent several months exploring its options for next-gen upgrades, and due to some form of blocker, it was unable to find a solution where every group of players was able to benefit. While it is challenging to bringing any game to next-gen platforms, we quickly realized it was even more difficult to upgrade our current user base to next-gen with full parity across platforms with our year-old game, it said. Every avenue we pursued, there was some form of blocker, and those blockers meant that at least one group of players ended up being left out of the upgrade for various reasons. It added, as of today, we cannot offer an upgrade to everyone, and leaving any one group out feels unfair. We understand that this is not what you want to hear. The publisher noted that owners of the current-gen version of Control will still be able to play on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 via backwards compatibility, but that's like saying, hey, we don't have McDonald's, but we have hamburgers at home. That's not McDonald's. And on top of that, there was also this glitch where owners of Control seemingly got upgraded to the Ultimate Edition for free a couple of months back, which was then reverted. I don't know if that was just an aesthetic on the front, like a cover where nothing actually happened on the back end, but it definitely led a lot of people to question. And so if you've been wanting to wait for the next-gen version of Control, it looks like you will have to wait a bit longer, but the people at Remedy are on the job. Now moving on, EA has detailed next-gen updates for Star Wars Squadrons, FIFA 21, and more. Looks like some next-gen magic is coming your way. With both Microsoft and Sony mere weeks away from the release of their respective next-gen consoles, have they forgotten they're coming out next week? EA has detailed how its most popular current-gen titles will play on the Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5. Depending on the title, you can mostly expect better loading times and more consistent frame rates, either through backward compatibility or a free next-gen upgrade. Among its current crop of games, the Xbox Series X and S version of Star Wars Squadrons will get the most significant next-gen upgrade. You'll have the choice between two quality presets, one that prioritizes better visuals and another that's more focused on performance. In the former mode, the Xbox Series X will render the game at a dynamic 4K and 60 FPS, while the Series S will aim for 1440p at 60 FPS. The game will also feature better lighting effects in this mode. In performance mode, both the Xbox Series X and Series S will render the game at 120 frames per second while trying to stay at 4K and 1440p respectively. Provided you own a compatible TV, the Xbox Series X and S version of Star Wars Squadrons will also include support for a variable refresh rate, which should smooth out any frame rate fluctuations. The PS5 updates EA has planned for Star Wars Squadrons are more modest. The PS5 will target the same resolution and frame rate as the PS4 Pro version currently does. EA has not mentioned VRR or 120 FPS support for PS5. The situation for EA's current lineup of sports titles is on the more complicated side. On December the 4th, EA will release next-gen versions of Madden NFL 21 and FIFA 21. If you already own those on a current-gen console, you will get a free upgrade once they become available. In the meantime, you can play Madden 21 and FIFA 21, as well as NHL 21 and UFC 4 through backward compatibility. On the Series X, you'll get the same experience as you would on an Xbox One X. The Series S experience, meanwhile, will be comparable to playing the game on an Xbox One S, while the PS5 will run the game as if it were a PS4. In all three instances, the game will benefit from faster load times. EA's Battle Royale, Apex Legends, will get more formal enhancements sometime next year. In the meantime, the company says you can expect a performance boost of up to 1440p. As The Verge notes, the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro versions of Apex already got 1440p targeting, so in practice what this upgrade means is that you'll see the game dip to 1080p less frequently. Nothing too exciting, but appreciated nonetheless. Sims fans can look forward to playing The Sims 4 and all of its many expansion packs on next-gen consoles with faster loading times and smoother frame rates. And last but not least, there is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, which you will be able to play on the Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 through backward compatibility. The same scheme that applies to EA Sports titles applies here. You'll get an Xbox One X-like experience on the Series X, an Xbox One S-like experience on the Series S, and a PS4 Pro-like experience on the PS5. Little lackluster, especially considering that Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is not getting any kind of benefit, and it literally came out last week. Kind of shocking there, in my opinion. But on top of that, it seems like the Apex Legends update is going to be coming in 2021. That's the one you'll want to actually play. And then the sports titles are pretty much doing what you would expect them to do on the new generation consoles. Now, the Star Wars Squadrons news is very good for me, because this is a game that I was holding out for because I thought this might happen. I love Star Wars, big fan of this fighter pilot kind of situation, and so I'm going to be picking this one up on Black Friday because I think it's going to be $20 if I remember correctly, and this is going to be a fantastic one to dive into in 4K HDR. Now, speaking of Star Wars, Jedi Fallen Order is coming to EA Play on November the 10th. And of course, that also means it's going to be coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscribers as well. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was a big hit for EA when it released last year. The Dark Souls light combat mixed with some Metroidvania exploration and intriguing Star Wars lore led to massive sales, and now players who subscribe to EA Play will get the same advantage as part of their subscription on November the 10th. Of course, with EA Play coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscribers on the same day, that means those players can also pick it up. The best deal in gaming just got even better. That is not that surprising that EA is putting Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on the EA Play service. After all, most of their first-party titles end up there eventually. Plus, timing up the game's release with the service's addition to Game Pass Ultimate is a shrewd move. It both helps convince people to give the service a try and gives Xbox yet another source of ammo as they try to sell more Series X and S units this holiday. And if you're going by today's Series X reviews, it sure does sound like the system could use more games to play at launch. It's not saying a 2019 Star Wars game replaces the Halo Infinite, however, it will at least give you something to do while you wait. Fallen Order might not be exactly a system seller, but if we can expect Xbox and EA to continue dropping big titles like this on their subscription, that's always going to be a good thing for consumers. Of course, again, it is coming to EA Play on November the 10th. Fantastic game, highly recommend picking it up, and I'm probably going to be playing through it again, because why not? Fantastic title. Now, looking forward to the future, Battlefield 6 will be launched in holiday 2021, EA confirmed. Andrew Wilson, CEO of Electronic Arts, confirmed in the latest financial report of the company that Battlefield 6 will be available in holiday 2021. Usually, Electronic Arts tends to launch a new entry from the Battlefield series once every 2 years. However, this time around, with the new generation of consoles arriving, the publisher has provided one more year for the development team at DICE to deliver the next mainline entry in the franchise in 2021. In the latest online meeting of EA's earnings call session, Andrew Wilson, CEO of the company, revealed that they have 8 separate titles to launch in the fiscal year 2021, including the new iterations of Battlefield. I think they mean 2022. I feel like that's true. Including the new iterations of Battlefield and Need for Speed franchises. He confirmed that Battlefield 6 is set to be launched in holiday 2021 and will have a never-before-seen scale. As some of you may know, the next Need for Speed game will be developed by Criterion Games, the former developer of the series that brought Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012 and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit to life. Wilson went on, teasing the game a bit more by mentioning that the new Need for Speed is set to bring some astounding visual leaps. It's yet to be seen whether these two upcoming games will be next-gen only titles, but Wilson praised the power of the next-gen consoles and how their teams will be able to deliver a true next-gen vision thanks to the new hardware sets. Battlefield 5 is currently the latest iteration on the series that could not repeat the successful performance of Battlefield 1, neither in sales nor fan reception. The game is now out for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. It will be added to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate through EA Play as of November the 10th, and will be available for Series X and S players as well. So, it looks like there is a lot coming from the team at Electronic Arts. Of course, I love Battlefield, one of my favorite first-person shooters of all time. It blends the realism of something like an Escape from Tarkov, but it also dials that back to where it's not quite a Call of Duty. It's probably like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Call of Duty, 10 being Escape from Tarkov, Battlefield's like a solid 4 or a 5, where it's still fun, lighthearted, you don't really have to pay consequences for your actions, but it's still fun. And so, looking forward to seeing what Battlefield 6 does bring to the table. And on top of that, the Need for Speed 2021 little preview, I'm looking forward to that because the visuals of a Gran Turismo or a Forza combined with the personality of a Need for Speed is exactly what I'm looking for. And Forza Horizon is fun, but I'm looking for something a bit more. Also, trying to hold out for a new Burnout. Give me a new Burnout. I want the crash, I want to wreck, I want to see Wreckfest, but with the funding of a big AAA company. That's just me though. And now to round out today's show, Warframe is heading to next-gen consoles with crossplay and saves. Congratulations. Of course, the first and most obvious change will be the graphics. Warframe will run at 4K resolution and 60 FPS and offer lower loading times and dynamic lighting. There will also be a game-wide texture remaster. This will make going through missions or exploring one of the game's 3 open worlds smoother and, of course, prettier. Warframe has continuously been updating its planets and settings, like overhauls to Jupiter or the Corpus faction, and this next-gen improvement will further improve the new tile sets and zones. Upgrading to PS5 won't isolate a player from their PS4 peers. There will be crossplay between the two consoles as well as cross-save. According to the news release from the developer, Xbox One and Series X will offer similar cross-gen play. More details will be released in the future. Of course, you can download a free Warframe starter pack if you are on PlayStation that includes a new backslot cosmetic inspired by the DualSense controller, as well as credits and currencies for players to use in-game. Now, it is worth mentioning that while Warframe will make its way to the Xbox Series X eventually, its next-gen debut will take place on the PlayStation, and that gives us a look at the future of the game online, so there is a bit of a timed exclusive piece to this story. So, of course, Warframe continues to be very, very popular, and it grew from pretty much what was a free-to-play launch game on the PlayStation 4 all the way up to where it is still a Goliath today that people kind of go back to whenever the Destiny 2 content gets old. It's always kind of a good fallback plan for streamers and for players. So looking forward to seeing what it looks like on the Series X and the PlayStation 5 when those updates do roll out. And again, the PS5 one will come a little bit sooner. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what you think about today's show and everything we discussed. Of course, first and foremost, what do you think about Nintendo continuing to kill it amidst this new console cycle? Would love to hear your thoughts. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.